Good evening, everyone. David Molko and Christine Pitawanich here with you as we continue to follow breaking news in East Portland this evening, where federal agents have shot two people. This started around 2 o'clock this afternoon, we understand, near Adventist Hospital. The FBI confirming those agents are Customs and Border Protection agents. Again, two injured, a man and a woman. Around 2:30 in the afternoon, police responding to East Burnside. So 15 minutes later, about 3 miles to the east of that, where a man and woman, they say, were found with gunshot wounds. We understand they have survived. They have been transported to the hospital, though no word on their condition.
Right, and that is what we're working to confirm. There is a lot of information rolling in as we speak, but a lot that we do not know this evening. But we do want to take it out to our Catherine Cook right now. She is live at 102nd in Southeast Main. Although before we get to our Catherine Cook, just in, we have a statement from the Department of Homeland Security.
And this is the first time we're potentially getting some clarity over what happened in the 2 o'clock hour. So this is from DHS spokesperson Tricia McLaughlin. We're reading it for the first time as well. She says, at 2:19, U.S. Border Patrol agents were conducting a targeted vehicle stop in Portland. The passenger of the vehicle and target, this is outside a medical center there, by the way, is a Venezuelan illegal alien, those are her words, affiliated with the transnational Tren de Agua prostitution ring and involved in a recent shooting in Portland.
And this statement goes on to say the vehicle driver is believed to be a member of the vicious Venezuelan gang Tren de Agua. When agents identified themselves to the vehicle occupants, the driver weaponized his vehicle and attempted to run over the law enforcement agents. And they continue, fearing for his life and safety, an agent fired a defensive shot. The driver drove off with the passenger, fleeing the scene. And of course, they say the situation is evolving as they continue the investigation.
This is the official account, again, from Homeland Security in the last few minutes, saying agents shot them when they weaponized their vehicle and tried to run over the agents. Of course, 24 hours or a little over 24 hours after ICE agents shot and killed a 37-year-old woman in Minneapolis. You can understand why tensions are heightened in the Portland metro and across the country tonight. Of course, there's no word from the FBI, which is officially conducting the investigation here. Portland police also securing the scenes, but we have team coverage out there tonight. Catherine Cook at Adventist Hospital, Alma McCarty and Blair Best on the east side, where they found the man and woman who were shot. Kyla Boshi at Legacy Emmanuel Hospital, John Adams as well on the south waterfront outside the ICE facility. By and large, we should mention before we head out to our reporters, leaders across the Portland metro, state, federal, city, condemning what's happened today, although again, the information is just coming in and calling for peaceful protest, not violence at this point.
And with that, we'll go out to our Catherine Cook first. She is live in Southeast Portland near Adventist Hospital at 102nd Southeast Main. This, where she is right now, is where this all started at about 2:15. Catherine, give us the rundown. What have you learned?
Christine and David, a lot of folks have been waiting for that update from federal officials. Certainly folks out here wondering what happened, how they ended up here. As this comes into focus, though, still many questions remain about the choices behind those federal responses. Behind us, the FBI, you can see their mobile unit is set up as they are the lead on this investigation. With that said, Portland police is also out here. Multnomah County DA Nathan Vasquez made a stop through here just a few moments ago, again, to sort of keep boots on the ground, but also clarify that their involvement is really on the periphery. It is a federal investigation, but certainly Portland police were involved in terms of the response to those who were shot. David and Christine, as you mentioned, after the shooting here, we are told that the two people who were shot, a man and a woman, drove to 146th and East Burnside. I checked, it's 2.7 miles away from here. And at that point, Portland police responded. They rendered aid to the two people, applying a tourniquet even, and then those two people who were shot were taken to a local hospital where tonight we do not know their condition. We're waiting for that, and we're waiting for more clarity again on sort of the targeted investigation. As you say, federal officials have said that this was a quote illegal alien from Venezuela, part of a prostitution ring. Again, these are all very new pieces of information coming through at this hour, but certainly folks out here less concerned about the details of why, but more very frustrated, angry over what happened here. Again, right after what happened in Minneapolis, Portland Mayor Keith Wilson asking for people to remain calm, remain peaceful. Multiple lawmakers asking for the same thing while condemning the shooting. And certainly out here, the FBI conducting their investigation where this all started this afternoon. Back to you.
Catherine, can you just give us a sense of what you're seeing in terms of what the FBI is doing on the ground? Because Homeland Security is saying the driver of this car weaponized his vehicle. We've seen a black Hyundai sedan there behind police tape behind you. Is there any sense of how many shots were potentially fired? If there are other vehicles involved, are you seeing evidence markers, debris? Just give us a sense of what you can see and what you can't see.
Those are great questions, David. We're also very curious about that. We can't get close enough to answer those questions directly at this hour. Certainly federal agents keeping everyone at more than an arm's length away. Certainly questions around the car, but also a question of what car did the two people take to reach East Burnside? Was it a different car? So definitely a lot of unanswered questions. We don't want to speculate tonight, but we are keeping a close eye from as far back as we can. Again, federal officials here, the FBI, lead on this investigation with their mobile command unit. Lots of crime tape. We are where we can be at this hour, but certainly we'll update you with more information as it becomes available.
Yeah, appreciate you keeping an eye on the scene there at 102nd in Southeast Maine, where this all began. We'll check in with you momentarily. Thank you, Catherine. Now we want to get to our Alma McCarty, who is live at Northeast 146th Avenue and East Burnside. This is about 3 miles or so from that first location that Catherine's at. Alma, what can you tell us?
Christine, I can tell you that there are a lot of people who are on scene here who were not on scene previously. We've got a lot of activists who are in the area really trying to see what is happening. We have some people who are streaming on their cameras, and then we also have some neighbors who are arriving here for the first time and going, what happened? I'm going to step out of the way, give you a kind of a look at what's going on. From what I understand, the investigators who were on the scene here, they were taking some pictures in this area beyond the fence. So it appears as though a lot of the investigation is focused on an apartment complex on the far side. This, again, 146th, Northeast 146th and East Burnside. The police presence has been consistent. There hasn't been more police who have shown up or anything. I'm going to have my photographer Kyle kind of pan over to Burnside, where there is some more police activity. Again, lots of crime tape, lots of people just trying to figure out what is going on here this evening. Again, this is the spot where Portland police say that those two victims arrived at after the shooting. So they presumably drove themselves from that location where Catherine is at over to this location and then called for help. We do not know the condition of the man and the woman who were taken to the hospital. I think a lot of people out here want to know that as well. Just a lot of questions at this point, not too many answers, but I can tell you that this investigation is certainly active, certainly ongoing. A lot of Portland police, and we did see FBI earlier. If you take a look, Kyle's going to zoom in. You can see that there are some people who are actively investigating, again, in front of an apartment complex, an apartment unit, but we're not entirely sure what they are doing at this time. As soon as we find out more details, David, Christine, we will be sure to let you know.
Alma, I know you've been there for maybe a little over an hour or so, and you mentioned the crowd that has grown. Can you give us a sense of just how many people have shown up, how many people are there? I assume most of them maybe looky-loos at some point, but can you just kind of give us a sense of what you're seeing on the ground?
Yeah, Christine, what we're seeing, I would say it's less looky-loos and more people who are deeply concerned. A lot of these people we actually met and talked to yesterday at the rallies that were happening for Renee Nicole Good within the city of Portland. So a lot of people just concerned that this is happening a day after what happened in Minneapolis in terms of federal agents using deadly force against two people within the city. So there's people who who are very concerned about that. There's obviously the people who live in the apartments around here. Some of them are more curious than others. Others are just like, hey, I'm trying to get past the police tape and back into my home this evening. I would tell you probably about 50, 60 or so. And there are several journalists, of course, on the ground, whether they are, crews like ours. We did see a few, it seems to be influencers and some other people who are just filming the scene as it is unfolding out here. Things are not too rowdy at this moment. It was touch and go for a second with an interaction between Portland police and a man who was just really frustrated with the situation earlier, but nothing that escalated. And at this point, it's just a pretty calm, content scene, and people are just observing what is going on, which at this point, unfortunately, not too much new information to bring you.
All right, Al McCarty on East Burnside there. I want to hop over. Blair Best also in that neighborhood where the shooting victims, a man and a woman, were found as well. But we believe they're still in the hospital recovering from their injuries, trying to get an update on their condition. Blair, before I bring you in here, I just want to reiterate something Mayor Keith Wilson has said this afternoon. Again, this transpiring over the past few hours here, calling for calm. This is part of a statement. He says, I call on every Portlander to represent our values and to show up with calm and purpose during this difficult time. Is that what you're hearing and seeing on the ground right now?
As things stand right now in this location, things are calm. People do have purpose, but also people are upset. They're angry. Some people on the verge of tears. And as we speak, protesters are planning their next move. Joining me now live is Holly Brown. She is the leader of a local protest group. Holly, what is your plan for tonight?
Yeah, so tonight we are going to be meeting at the ICE facility at 7 p.m. We're going to be protesting against ICE there. We're going to be standing against their violent actions here in Portland today. We're going to be demanding that the ICE agent who shot these people is arrested, and we're going to be fighting back.
We have heard repeatedly from Portland Mayor Keith Wilson and Chief Bob Day that they want peace. They want people to protest peacefully and not, quote, take the bait from the Trump administration. Do you agree with that? Is that how you guys will approach tonight?
I mean, I think that ship has sailed. They shot people in Portland today. We're not going to go out there and do something crazy, but we have to fight back. And quite frankly, saying that people should stand down, should avoid, going up against ICE right now is actually super dangerous, because when they do things like this, we have to show them that we will not let it stand in Portland, and we're not going to be silent.
But you'll do so peacefully.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to go there. We're going to raise our voices. We're going to stand against violence here in Portland, and we're going to make sure everybody is safe while we're doing that.
Okay, Holly, thank you.
Yeah, of course.
We'll continue to monitor the situation out here and down at the ICE facility, but for now, we'll toss it back to you.
All right, Blair, I appreciate you giving us a firsthand perspective of someone on the ground and reacting to this news. Thanks so much.
And also, Justin, we've heard that at 6 p.m., Portland police plan to host a news conference. We plan to be there as well, and we'll bring it to you live as soon as we get there. Also, as we talk about Portland Police, Chief Bob Day asking the community to stay calm as they help with the investigation.
Important to note here, the FBI is running this investigation. That news conference, by the way, the governor, the mayor, and the police chief are all going to be there around 6 o'clock this evening, so we should get potentially some context and an update there. It's just interesting as we hear from Homeland Security saying that this was a targeted vehicle stop, that the passenger of the vehicle was a Venezuelan illegal alien. These are their words, affiliated with a prostitution ring. The driver was believed to be a Venezuelan gang member. These are sort of the language terms we often see in Homeland Security statements here. But important to note that they are saying when agents identified themselves, again, these are Customs and Border Protection agents, the driver weaponized his vehicle and attempted to run them over. The agent fired a defensive shot. The driver drove off with his passenger. A little bit of an inconsistency in the statement, considering we understand both people were shot. So in theory, two people could be hit by one bullet, but that's one of the questions we're going to be trying to answer over the next few hours, including the condition of the victims right now.
That's true, and we don't know exactly where they are. However, we do know that earlier today, Legacy Emanuel was put down into lockdown, and that's where we find our Kyle Laboshi this evening. Kyle, if you can hear us, what are you seeing on the ground? I know earlier you said things seemed quieter than usual.
Indeed, there was a heavy police presence early on out here in all likelihood for crowd control, but many of those officers have now left. As you pointed out, we reached out to Legacy Emanuel earlier today and throughout the afternoon and early evening looking for any confirmation on the number of patients that were transported here and their condition. So far, we have not heard back. We were also told earlier today they were in lockdown, and we've not received any information officially from Legacy Emanuel. Behind me, you can see the emergency entrance here at Legacy Emanuel Hospital. This is a level 1 trauma center, so oftentimes in dire situations, very serious injuries, this is where the patients come. We have seen some ambulances arrive, although none with lights and sirens since we've been here for the past hour or so. We've also seen police officers and also hospital security roaming about. We hear in the distance what sounds like some protest activity, and we've seen a few people, maybe half dozen at most, kind of wandering outside the perimeter of the hospital. Although we are standing on the sidewalk outside of Legacy Emanuel property, which is typically protocol, and that they ask us to stay back. So far, though, we've gotten no official word from Legacy Emanuel as we continue to wait for any type of update on how many patients were transported and are being treated here. Once we get that information, we'll pass it along to you.
You keeping us updated on what you're seeing and what you're hearing there at Legacy Emanuel in North Portland. Thank you, Kyle. And as he was saying, we don't know the conditions of the 2 people shot. What we do know is that around 2:30, a man did call for help. When police responded, they found 2 people, a man and a woman with gunshot wounds. And at that point, officers apparently applied a tourniquet. Then they took those 2 people to the hospital, and will continue to monitor where they might be, what their conditions might be as this story develops.
Homeland Security saying the driver of a vehicle, the start started with a vehicle around that medical center at Venice Health, and saying the driver tried to run over law enforcement agents during that targeted stop, and that's when agents opened fire. That's the official line from Homeland Security this evening. Obviously sensitive considering the context of everything that's happened in the 24 hours, especially in Minneapolis, where an ICE agent shot and killed a 37-year-old woman. That investigation also in its early stages. But I want to bring in John Adams on the South Waterfront outside the ICE facility, which, John, has been a bit of a flashpoint over the last few months, of course, with the president trying to bring in the National Guard to calm things down, a judge basically blocking the president from doing that. President Trump within the last few weeks saying he was going to back off, and now this, but calls again, John, for calm across the city. What are you seeing right now?
Well, David, a flashpoint, I would say, is a great way to describe what this facility has been throughout the last 6-7 months or so. But as of right now, we see about 15 people, 15, maybe 20 at most, protesters out here. Most of them have arrived within the last hour since we got on scene here around 4 o'clock. There are only about 5 people here at this time. I'm going to go ahead and step out of the way so you can see what's going on in front of the facility. And what we have seen is right now is typical of what we've seen a lot of times we've been down here so far this year. You see people in costumes, you see people with American flags, with signs, folks with megaphones, folks playing music. We have seen the gate of the facility open one time to let a vehicle out of the facility, and at that point people usually start yelling at the folks in that vehicle. But what we have not seen so far out here tonight, we have not seen any federal agents come out of the building to come up to protesters. We have not seen any protesters in the road blocking traffic. You know, this is typically a very busy time of day traffic-wise here, with a lot of cars coming in and out of this section of the waterfront area. Thus far, we have not seen any interruptions in traffic coming in and out of the facility. Protesters have lined sections of the sidewalk with what it looks like to be candles or some sort of lights or something like that. But as of right now, we have not seen this entire section of the street shut down like we have seen at times so far this year. So we'll continue to monitor what's going on right now, but I would describe what we're seeing here right now as about 15 to 20 people protesting peacefully outside the facility. Back to you.
I saw a dancing bumblebee behind you, the inflatable costume, still part of it. Let's hope it stays calm and continues that way through the evening. Appreciate it, John. Well, reaction's been pouring in from local, state, and federal leaders as we speak.
Our Devin Haskins has been tracking all of that from the newsroom. Devin, give us a rundown on what you're hearing.
Yeah, guys, the latest response coming from Multnomah County Sheriff Nicole Morrissey O'Donnell. She says she's monitoring the situation and sent us this statement that said, quote, "My thoughts are with those who were injured during this shooting, their families, and anyone who witnessed it. Moments like this can create even greater fear, and I recognize the weight of emotion our country and now our community is carrying right now." She goes on to say that as sheriff, she supports the community's right to peacefully and lawfully assemble. If people choose to gather, we ask that it be done lawfully and safely. Portland's Police Chief Bob Day also issuing a statement saying, "We understand the heightened emotion and tension many are feeling in the wake of the shooting in Minneapolis, but I'm asking the community to remain calm as we work to learn more." Again, that coming from Chief Bob Day. We're closely looking for any other statements that come in from local, state, or federal officials, and as they do, we will pass those along. Back to you guys.
Okay.
All right, Devin Haskins in the newsroom. I mean, the reaction just coming in minute to minute and largely condemning the actions. I mean, it is early. While Homeland Security says shots were fired defensively and 2 people were injured, you have a lot of people jumping to other conclusions. But I have to mention, we have not seen any of the evidence here. We just have statements and pieces and attention around a vehicle and 2 people who are injured. So we just have to caution that as well, that this is going to take time, and it's going to take time for the details to come out, to get some clarity and to confirm what's actually occurred here.
Right. To that point, we don't know what led up to this altercation. We don't know the circumstances, but the information just keeps coming out slowly. And as it does, people are weighing in, including our local city councilors. Our Celine Stevens is live in downtown Portland at City Hall. Celine, I know you've had an opportunity to talk to a number of our city councilors about what happened today.
Christine, I did. And I was here at City Hall when we first learned that there was an emergency in the city of Portland. So I was here. There were around 10 or so protesters that were actually going into City Hall to try and talk to Mayor Wilson about that ICE facility. They were talking about the land use violation and all the back and forth with that. And there were people that were telling me that inaction could lead to someone dying or being injured by federal agents, like what we saw in Minneapolis. And so they went up the stairs. We went up the stairs with them. And when they got to the office, a constituent consultant came out and told them the mayor would not be able to meet with them because there was an emergency. And that was the first time that we had heard about that. And they said it was an emergency involving ICE. And I'll tell you then, we didn't have any idea what that emergency was tied to, but people immediately started to assume that somebody had been hurt by a federal agent. And so we also learned at that time that the city council, they were in the chambers, that they went into recess. And then, of course, around an hour or so later, we learned that 2 people had been shot. And so I spoke with a few city councilors today, including Councilor Canal, and here's what he had to say.
Yeah, horrified, not surprised, and outraged. We've been talking about ICE and its activities, its lawlessness for months now. And actually, this is a conversation that goes back years. And it's just a matter of time until something like this happened here, until the federal government reins in this force and takes it apart. We will not have an end to the violence.
Is this something that obviously we saw this in Minneapolis yesterday, is this something that you expected or you never thought it would get to this extent here at home?
I absolutely thought it was possible. That's why we've been working on legislation to try and rein in this government as it operates here for a number of months now. Yesterday, I thought about Minneapolis. I was in Minneapolis in October and met a lot of the local leaders there. Drove on Portland Avenue, actually, where the shooting happened, and I'm keeping the families of Renee Nicole Good in Minneapolis and our 2 Portlanders who are injured right now in my thoughts.
When you talk about reining in how the government operates here, are you able to specify what exactly you mean in terms of that?
In terms of what we can do and in terms of what the federal government can do are 2 different things. We have to talk about ensuring that federal agents are not masked when they operate in the city limits of Portland. But broadly speaking, the federal government has a responsibility to take apart ICE brick by brick.
And just sort of last thing, speaking, there are Portlanders here that were rallying when we learned of the news. They were trying to meet with Mayor Wilson regarding the ICE facility, and they were told he couldn't come out because of this emergency situation. And we learned about all this unfolding right before our eyes. So to the Portlanders that were already, they said they felt like, inaction would lead to something like this. And now, obviously, there has been an incident. I mean, what do you have to say to people that, have been protesting at the ICE facility here, are going to continue? What do you have to say to those people?
I'm proud of them. I'm proud of our Portlanders for standing up for the human rights of every person in this country. And I'm proud of them for doing so in a way that's overwhelmingly peaceful and grounded in our values here as a city.
I just want to go back to that statement that we got from Mayor Wilson a bit after that, once we learned what had happened, and one of his last lines saying, "As mayor, I call on ICE to end all operations in Portland until a full investigation can be completed." Of course, we need some clarity on what exactly that means. But here at City Hall, there's a few people already starting to gather with flags and whatnot. Not a lot of people. There's no rallying or chanting yet, but as it's gotten dark, there have been people that have started to gather here. But it's been a pretty quiet scene as of yet, and of course, we'll continue to keep you all updated. Back to you.
Celine Stevens outside City Hall. Appreciate your reporting. You know, a couple of the unanswered questions at this hour, and there are many considering this developed around 2:15 in the afternoon. What we're about 3 hours later, 5:15. The condition of the two people who were shot by Customs and Border Protection agents. We believe they're in the hospital. No word on their condition. And also if the shooting was in fact justified. That's a legal term, of course. Homeland Security saying, yes, it was. It was a targeted vehicle stop. They tried to run agents over, and agents fired a defensive shot. That's a direct quote from a DHS spokesperson there.
Yeah, they said the agent feared for his life and safety before firing that defensive shot. But tonight we're also really interested in hearing from law enforcement about the shooting. Let's bring in our Evan Watson now, who's in the newsroom. Evan, help us put this into context a bit more. You spoke with a former FBI agent.
I did just about 20 minutes or so ago. I spoke with Brian Dugan, a former FBI agent who also trained federal officers. He called this situation terrible and tragic for everyone involved and explained how a use of force investigation will unfold from here following federal rules of evidence, meaning there won't be many public updates on the investigation side of things. But importantly, I asked Dugan about the timing and context of this shooting just a day after yesterday's shooting in Minnesota involving federal agents and immigration enforcement. Dugan said from his perspective, this is a product of escalated enforcement that he said is putting everyone in harm's way, increasing the chances of dangerous situations and bad outcomes.
We're trying to go after more violent offenders and or effectuate more immigration arrests. That means there's just a lot more contact in an operational sense, especially when there's a lot more unknowns. It's making a tinderbox for both the law enforcement professionals and the citizenry. It's just more activity, more operations. It's just heightened awareness, heightened anxiety on both sides. And unfortunately, these things are going to happen probably more often. It's a faster pace. It's less preparation. It's just kind of shooting, moving out there to get to numbers. I would like to see like a pause, like just kind of like, let's take a breath. Let's do a safety pause. Let's do a moment where we kind of make sure we're doing things the right way.
Dugan mentioned multiple times to me that point about the pace of immigration enforcement, looking at how frequently officers are trying to make stops and make arrests, make quotas for how many people they are looking to stop and arrest in different situations. And he seemed to emphasize from his perspective, a former federal agent, that having that kind of pace, having that kind of increased, enhanced enforcement is creating situations that could be very dangerous, which is why he made that point about looking for a pause, looking for something that if he was in charge, he'd like to step things back when you look at the context of this nationally. Back to you.
Appreciate you taking the time to talk to that former FBI agent. Evan Watson reporting for us. Thank you, Evan.
All right, and speaking of the FBI, which is the investigating authority on the shooting, again, 2 Customs and Border Protection agents. I shouldn't say 2. We believe multiple agents fired shots. Homeland Security saying 1 shot was fired, but the statements are sort of muddled, and we imagine we'll get some clarity here. The FBI, the investigating authority, just releasing an updated statement. Here's what it says. FBI Portland is investigating an assault on federal officers that happened at about 2:15 in Portland involving 2 Customs and Border Protection agents. The 2 assailants, these are the words in the statement, fled the scene immediately following the shooting and are currently being treated for their injuries. It remains an active and an ongoing investigation led by the FBI here. Again, FBI Portland saying this was an assault on federal officers.
And just minutes ago also, Multnomah County Board of Commissioners, they released a statement as well saying they're trying to learn everything they can. They're encouraging patience because they're trying to learn everything they can to ensure accuracy. They say, quote, "What we can say now is enough is enough. The terror and violence ICE is causing in our neighborhoods must end now." Again, this all coming after DHS made a statement saying that their agent feared for his life, that he was conducting a targeted vehicle stop.
What's interesting too, in the statement you just mentioned from county commissioners, it's unified. The chair's on there and all 4 commissioners are on the same page, right? There's a lot of divisiveness sometimes in Portland politics and city council and the county board and people who don't often agree on issues. But in this case, it seems there is a lot of unity on this, above everything, calling for calm, calling for transparency, and calling for peace as the details still come in here.